Good morning. What day is it? Mike. Hump day! He's still sleeping. Happy Wednesday, everybody. How you doing? Good morning. So we're back talking about what manages your state. And yesterday we talked about how physiology, a radical change in your physiology, radically transforms your state. And did you do it? Did you do your homework yesterday? Did you actually rev yourself up into a totally energized state? If you didn't, please do, so you can show yourself just how quickly you can go from bored and tired to instantaneously being energized, and then take yourself back to bored and tired. You can manage your state using your physiology all that you want. And it's an incredibly powerful tool. Maybe the most powerful tool that you can learn and master, quite frankly, is the physiological component to managing your state. So the second part, managing your state, it's focus/belief. And it's really kind of, they're one thing, but they're kind of two. Focus is whatever you focus on is what you get in your life. And I'm actually going to do focus today, and I'm going to do belief tomorrow. So remember the example that I gave you about there's a piece of highway between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, and tons of people get into car wrecks, and there's a large telephone pole. It's about 6 feet wide, but it's every mile. There is a mile in between. So you have a mile in between each 6 foot wide thing. Okay? A mile. Outside of the 6 foot wide telephone pole thing, there's nothing. There's road. There isn't even a ditch. There's just road and then desert. And I mean desert like what you got in the Middle East, where there's just nothing there. There's no plants. There's nothing. Just dirt and rocks. So what happens? People are coming back from Las Vegas and they're going to Los Angeles, and they've been up all night long, and they're tweaking and they're rolling and they're driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bentleys. So they're doing 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they go off the road. They fall asleep, or they're, God only knows, doing a line and drinking champagne, and so they're not paying attention. It is now the most dangerous stretch of highway in the United States, by the way. It has the most wrecks. So they go off the road, and invariably they run into a telephone pole. Now, they don't hardly ever get hurt because they're all drunk, but when asked, what happened? How'd you hit the telephone pole? They all say the same thing. I don't know. I was doing everything I could to not hit the telephone pole, and I just somehow hit the telephone pole. Whatever we focus on is what we get. And if you focus on what you don't want, that's what you get. So when they go off the road and panic, what goes into their head? Don't hit the pole. Avoid the pole. Make sure you don't hit the pole. The pole. Bam. Right into the pole. Remember the example that I said about Disney? They had the race car thing. So they have this thing where you can go drive NASCAR at Disney. I can't remember who it was. It's named after somebody. I don't remember who it was. But you go and you're going around this track, and they intentionally put you into a spin. And you sit there and you wait for it, and you wait for it, and you wait for it. I mean, it's the freakiest thing in the world, because you know that it's coming, and they're great at hitting you right when you finally relax. And so all of a sudden you're in a spin, and what are you doing? You're going right towards the wall. And they tell you, when you go into the spin, you have to look where you want to go. Don't look at the wall. Look at where you want to go. No, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm a Tony Robbins trainer. I mean, I teach this stuff. I can do this. Okay, well, that sounds great until you're doing about 110 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you go into a spin. What's the first thing that I did? Wall. Totally did it. So what does the trainer do? What does the guy who's training you do? He physically takes your head and points you to where you want to go, so that you look where you want to going, and then you will naturally steer the car in that direction. And by the way, when you first look and steer, do you go in that direction? No. You keep heading towards the wall because you're in a slide. It takes a minute and you're still going towards the wall while you're looking in another direction and steering, and then the cart catches and you miss the wall. We got done with that. There's so many great metaphors about life that I've learned at Disney, and that was one of the best. I also told you guys the story about the Tower of Terror, which I'll tell again. But that one was amazing, and I got done, and what a metaphor for life, and that's exactly what we've got to remember. How many of us are in a spin right now with COVID? Everybody. We're all in a spin in some way. Right now, the world has sent us into a spin. And by the way, if a year ago you weren't planning for a spin, then you need to stop and pay attention. Because we had been white hot and everybody had been making money and everything had been going great forever. And you got to know that at some point, the world's going to go into a spin. You got to prepare for these events. I remember being in both New York and Chicago this time last year, and I looked at my now wife and I said, enjoy this because it's not going to last. It's too much. There's too much building. There's too much. It's going too much in one direction. Nothing goes this much in one direction. Eventually it shifts. And it did. And so here we are, we're all in a spin. So we got to remember to look at where we want to go, not where we don't want to go. If you focus on what you don't want, then that is what you're going to get. And we all, including myself, need to remind ourselves of this every day. Every day I get up and the first thing I do is I look at my roles, the definition of my roles, my standards, and my goals and my outcomes. I look at all of that stuff, and that's the first thing that I upload into my brain every day. Because during the night, your body has been going through, your brain has been going through all of the stuff that you manage throughout the day, and it deletes a lot of it. It files things away, and it gets rid of a lot of stuff to make room for what's coming today. So the first thing that you want to have come in is something positive and where you want to go. I don't touch social media. I don't touch any of that stuff for a significant period of time. I look at who I want to be and where I want to go. And that's the first thing that I put into my head every day. And so do successful people. Successful people write down, what is it that I'm going to do today? What's my outcome today? And that helps manage your physiology. Whatever you focus on also then helps manage your physiology, because if you're focusing on what you don't want, it's gonna impact your state. If you focus on what's bad, it's gonna impact your state. There's scientific proof now that optimists are more successful than pessimists. They tend to have more quote unquote failures because they try more. But because they don't look at them as failures, they look at them as learning. They also tend to take more opportunities. They tend to take more swings of the bat. Michael Jordan, I got a new poster in my new office. Michael Jordan missed 9,000 or 3,000 shots. He lost over 300 games. 26 times he was entrusted with the ball to take the final shot and lost, including a game 5 or 4 or 5 in Utah, the final time that he won the championship, that he thought he was going to win the game. Did that stop him? No. Did that make it so he didn't want the ball at the end of the game? Absolutely not. Even when he played on the Dream Team, when they asked him who should get the last shot, if there's a last shot, and he's playing with Magic, and he's playing with Bird, and he's playing with all those guys, and he says, me. If there's a last shot to be taken, it's going to be me. He didn't look at it as failure. He looked at it as learning. And so optimists are much more successful than pessimists because they take more swings. You got to make your swings be intelligent. You should find role models. You can't be foolhardy, but you always got to make sure that you focus on where you want to go, and that's going to help manage your state. Physiology and then focus. Do one more thing for me today. Stop what you're doing right now. Look around your room, and it's probably someplace that you're familiar with, but do it anyway. Look around your room really quickly and look for everything that's brown. Look around. Look for brown. Brown. Look for brown. Look for brown. Find brown. Look high. Look low. Look behind you. Find brown. Find brown. Brown, 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 brown. Now close your eyes. Close your eyes and picture what you were just looking at. And now think of everything in your room that is green. I fooled you a little bit. Keep your eyes closed. Think of something that's green. And then think of something that's red. Now, open your eyes and look around the room and look for green and look for red. And you're going to find that when you pictured, even if you're in a familiar room, when you pictured the room, you didn't picture green and red because when you were looking around, all that you were looking for was brown. Have you ever bought a car that you had never had, a type of car that you'd never owned, and after you bought that car, suddenly you noticed that it seemed like everybody had that car? Well, was it that all of a sudden everybody in the world decided to buy the same car as you? Probably not. Probably what it was is you all of a sudden just started focusing on it. Go buy a Jeep if you've never owned a Jeep, and you'll all of a sudden notice that there's tons of Jeeps, and you'll also notice that Jeep owners all wave at each other. Wherever we focus on is where we go. Where focus goes, energy flows. Don't ever forget. So make sure that you're focusing on where you want to go and not where you don't want to go. Because if you're sitting there saying, don't let this happen, don't let this happen, don't let this happen, that's where your energy's going. And so that's where your focus is going, and that's what's going to happen. So as we head into hump day and we're learning again to be perfectionists at managing our state, let's make sure that energy is flowing in the areas that we want it to. Good morning, Christy. Thanks for saying good morning. Hey, have a great Wednesday, everybody. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.